Television is not the truth. Television is a goddamn amusement park. Television is a circus, a carnival, a traveling troupe of acrobats, storytellers, dancers, singers, jugglers, sideshow freaks, lion tamers, and football players. We're in the boredom-killing business. So turn off your television sets. Turn them off now. Turn them off right now. Turn them off and leave them off. Turn them off right in the middle of the sentence I'm speaking to you now. Turn them off.
Stop them. An idea whose time has come cannot be stopped by any army.
Welcome to another edition of Eradicating Programmed Ignorance, the Town Crier. Today we're going to delve into some politics, and we're going to talk about the America that I have seen over the last 3 generations. And again, we're going back to that word perspective, because this is what I have. I'm 64 years old, so I have about 3 generations or 60 years of perspective. Excuse me. So today's topic is a crisis of fear. Liberty can't exist in shades of gray. I'm going to repeat that again. A crisis of fear. Liberty can't exist in shades of gray. All right. Fear is the most effective form of control over man's mind ever conceived by mankind. And if you doubt anything I just said, listen as we progress. To see the reality in this statement, we need to look no further than our own country. In the late 1950s and the early 1960s, when I was a young boy, the word terrorist had no meaning other than a word in the dictionary. Today, the mere mention of this word strikes fear into the hearts and minds of just about every American. Why? What has transformed this country from a self-assured, strong-willed, incompetent nation into a nation who sees terrorists behind every rock and in the eyes of every Muslim, regardless of their education or caste in life? Are there bad Muslims? Yeah, there definitely are. Is every Muslim on this planet bad? If you think so, you're an idiot. So, with that being said, the answer to this question is fear, the tool of our leaders and their masters, to be wielded against the people to subjugate us in a slow and steady progression in almost tolerable bites until we lose sight of what freedom or liberty actually means. Liberty is literally being redefined by those who would control us. I penned the basis for this original article, I don't know, about 4 years ago. But as any of us who are aware can see, things haven't gotten any better. Actually, they've probably gotten much worse, especially in reference to an active deep state coup attempt against a duly elected president and the tyranny against we the people this represents. So I saw the need to update and republish this commentary. In America today, fear is chronic, and thus the tyranny is emboldened. We now live in a society that no longer resembles the America I was born into, but was the origin of most of what we complain about today. So what was the trigger for what we suffer today? Can we go back and put our finger on one point in history that spelled the accelerated downturn of America? I think so. A vast majority of this tyranny started with 9/11. Now, I'm not associating everything with 9/11. I'm saying 9/11 was the catalyst, okay? So, again, a vast majority of this tyranny did start with 9/11 and the false realization that 19 Muslims with box cutters thwarted the combined security of multiple nations, including the world's only remaining superpower. A majority of Americans and the rest of the world now hold steadfast to the belief that this government has lied to us about the true happenings of 9/11. And the reality is very dark and treacherous. But due to the perpetual war on terror, the veil of fear hangs over America almost unabated. And here I've injected a meme which reads, "Fear is the best mechanism utilized by mankind to control man's mind. See through the fear." And again, if we wish America to go anywhere at this point, we need to see through the fear. Regardless of what transpired on 9/11, America, as a result of this catastrophic event, began the slow but steadfast erosion of liberty under the guise of protection. It's always about protection. Protection from the evil Muslim terrorists. Let me ask you a question. Prior to the United States going in and facilitating a coup in Libya in the late 1950s and starting a vast Muslim hatred for the United States, when was the last time, prior to that point in the 1950s, that the Muslims ever bothered Americans? That the Muslims pretty much ever bothered anybody? But we won't dwell on that, okay? Okay, now, any rational mind can easily debunk the notion, owing to the fact that no nation on this earth possesses the military might and the suicidal desire to attack the United States. I really can't find one, and I spent 8 years in the military and 20 years working directly for the military-industrial complex. Yeah. Especially those far less developed nations we perpetrate and perpetuate warfare against even today. We are at a point in history where there are more there are more regional wars going on than at any point in history. And how many do you think the USA has an involvement in? But fear is not rational, and it tends to override most fact-based reasoning, especially if this fear is being reinforced constantly, hourly, daily, by a corrupt and complicit mass media system run by the same oligarchs who own our leaders. We cannot defend freedom abroad by deserting it at home. Edward R. Murrow, how freaking appropriate. It is through a constant reinforced fear that one tyrannical piece of legislation or executive order after another was instituted in the name of protecting us. Yes, Mr. Bush, this is a fact. These are all well known to us, and combined have the effect of totally undermining the Bill of Rights and indeed the Constitution to the point where they can be resigned to the scrap heap of obsolescence, never to be called upon again in the capacity of championing our liberty. Or so our supposed leaders would hope. I don't believe this, and I believe most of you don't. It is only through the massive and continuous institution of fear that this may come to fruition. Again, see past the fear. This program really came to light, starting with the Patriot Act. Then came indefinite detention, followed by H.R. 347, and progressing to the government's ability to assassinate U.S. citizens without due process, and a litany of other fear-enhancing and freedom-robbing maneuvers we watched, and far too many of us sheepishly acquiesced to, as tyranny was unfolded in stages right before our fearful eyes. If you listen to our leaders, every time a piece of legislation or a piece of legislated tyranny was perpetrated or presented, same thing, the excuse was always the same. We need to balance our rights and liberty with the needs to protect this country. Bullcrap! Bullcrap. We do not sacrifice our liberties and rights to protect this country. We stand up and protect this country. It has nothing to do with our rights and our liberties, but you would be led to believe that is exactly what it's about. Inevitably turning the fact of liberty into degrees of liberty, progressing into smaller and still even smaller degrees as time advances. And when did 9/11 happen? 2001, and this is 2018 verging on 2019. So we're talking almost 18 years of tyranny being perpetrated on the American people. Take a look at where your rights stood in 2000 and where your rights stand now. Take a real look. Not a a cursory glance. Don't just glance at it. Take a real look and understand what's happening. And then let me ask you, what are you doing about any of this? Where is your voice? Now, what we are left with is a hollow sound every time one of us uses the word liberty. And we are lost in shades of gray. But let me tell you something, and yes, here's another meme from Roger. Liberty can't exist in shades of gray. Either liberty exists or it does not. This can only be expressed in black or white, because when liberty is defined in shades of gray, this is when tyranny is permitted to flourish. And this is a fact. When liberty is taken away by force, it can be restored by force. When liberty is relinquished voluntarily, by default, it can never be recovered. Dorothy Thompson. It has been stated by this government that the war on terror will continue for decades. America as we knew it will die from within long before victory has ever been declared. We need to understand this. We need to understand the lies we've been told. We need to understand the liberties and the freedoms we've lost, and we need to push back against it. Because to say, well, it's not too bad right now, I can live with this, only emboldens them to take more from you. And what you don't understand is some of the laws that have been passed. Again, let me revisit one of them by executive order without, any trial. If the president deems you, the president of the United States deems you somebody who is, dangerous to the United States, he can have you assassinated with no due process. And I could go on, but I won't. This is all about liberty. This is all about shades of gray. I also inserted into this article, and something I want you all to watch, the final episode of Freedom Watch. And of course, Judge Napolitano's motto was, when government fears the people, there's liberty. But when the people fear the government, there's tyranny. Anybody here who has listened to what I've just said and will read this article and watch these videos and doesn't believe that America has passed from the point of liberty to the point of tyranny, think about last week's show, the week before, where we talked about the United States was ruled as an oligarchy proven by research done at Princeton. It's not ruled by you and me. We do not control the United States of America and haven't for a while. It is oligarchs who rule and control this country. Princeton proved unequivocally in a peer-reviewed study that our word doesn't mean crap anymore. It's time you woke up. It's time you woke up to the fact that all of the liberty you brag so much about doesn't freaking exist in modern day America. And if you want it to exist, you need to stand up and say something, because it's not getting better. It's getting worse. And no matter what Trump does, and as far as Trump goes, if anybody here believes that he doesn't have oligarchical ties, you're an idiot. But even I must say that he is probably the best person in a very long time to make any advances back towards liberty in this country. And for that, look at the crap he catches on a daily basis. This man has already stated he probably won't even run again in 2020. Why? Who the hell would want to put their life, their family's life, their children's life, everything through this? You would think that a country would appreciate its president. You would think that a country would protect its president. You would think that a duly elected president would be the most cherished thing in a country, whether you agreed with him or not. There is a political way to dissent. We are seeing totalitarianism. We are seeing some communism. We are seeing a lot of socialism. Let me ask you all a question here, real quick. How many of you signed up to live in a totalitarian oligarchy, which you do right now, by Princeton's own word, or a communist government or a socialist government? Do you really, any of you want this? Especially anybody listening to this show. And I would imagine that a vast majority of you said no. Then what's going to facilitate you getting off your ass and doing something? Because this country is going down the shitter so goddamn fast that there is, I don't know, is there a check for it? Is there a way to stop it? Yes, there is. It's called 325 million American voices. It's time to use them. It's time to see through the fear and make America great again. Well, liberty is an all or nothing proposition. As I said, it cannot be issued in degrees or shades of gray. Liberty either exists or it does not. This is a black and white situation. It can never be in shades of gray. Because remember, there are an infinite number of shades of gray between black and white, with none being absolute. And that's the world you live in. You have no absolutes. Your laws are not absolute. How do they apply to you? How do they apply to the Clintons? Yeah. What makes them different from you? Isn't this supposed to be a constitutional republic where all of us, okay, have the same level of authority in this country as the true sovereigns of this country? Who says somebody's better than me? Who says somebody's better than you? So remember this. This is my parting shot. The cost of unchecked tyranny will always far exceed the price of inherent freedom. We need to stand up. We need to speak out. If we really do want this country to retain the liberty or to regain the liberty we were promised by our founding fathers. This has been Eradicating Programmed Ignorance, brought to you by the Liberty Beacon Project. And again, the town crier is my new mechanism for getting my commentaries across. Thank you for listening. I hope you all have a great day.